The other story I wanted to share with you is our geeky science for the day. It is actually the piece that I publish every Monday and Thursday. I publish a piece on our new website, hunterinAfarmersworld.com. And it's all based on my hunter versus farmers theory that ADHD is actually a collection of behaviors. It's a three-part constellation, essentially. Distractibility, impulsivity, and a high need for risk-taking. And I suggest that those three things were survival skills in an ancient hunting-gathering world and are not so much now in a post-agricultural world, except in some areas. There are some areas where those are still very useful skills. They make you a good talk show host, in my opinion. They make you a good detective. They make you an excellent salesperson. They can make you a good entrepreneur if you have the wisdom to hook up with a farmer who can run things once you've got them started. But the piece that I published on Monday, it's titled ADD versus ADHD and Women versus Men. And it points out this reality that ADD or ADHD diagnoses are heavily skewed toward boys and men. Because boys and men are more likely to have the hyperactive, the external, the gregarious kind of ADHD, the kind that is obvious to everybody. But girls and women have, this is a genetic thing that is not tied to a gene associated with gender. Girls and women have just as much ADHD as boys do and men do. They just don't get diagnosed as often. Why? Because instead of interrupting other people, like boys do, girls are interrupting themselves inside their own heads. Now, why is that? Well, part of it probably has something to do with testosterone. Boys are more outer directed, in part because of hormones. If you don't think that's true or you think that's a sexist statement, just answer the question very simply. What percentage of people are serial killers or rapists or, that's enough right there. These are people who hunt other people. It's always men. This is testosterone at work. But for girls and women with ADHD, what's going on is they're interrupting every bit as much and having a hard time following the thread because of their interruptions. It's just that they're doing it inside their own heads. I tell the story of when our oldest daughter was 4 years old and I was reading her Cinderella. And I suddenly realized halfway through the story that the good girl, Cinderella, was quiet and demure and did what she was told. And the ugly sisters, the bad sisters, were out there in the world trying to make their way. And the prize that they were competing for, Cinderella versus her sisters, was a man, a prince. And it suddenly hit me. This is how little girls grow up with the idea that they need to be quiet and demure. It's in our stories. It's in our movies, it's in our commercials, it's in our books, it's in our television programs. It's in our culture. It's just built into us. And so the call for action essentially is for the psychological community and psychiatric community in large part, because for some people medication is a useful thing for ADHD, to wake the hell up and realize that this is true. And the proof of it, by the way, is if you put distractible girls or women, ADHD girls or women, in a high stimulation environment or give them stimulant drugs, they stopped interrupting themselves inside their own heads and they're able to focus and pay attention. And the same as boys. It's just, you don't see it externally as profoundly. So if you're interested in that, curious about it, go over to hunterinAfarmersworld.com. And the title of the article is ADD versus ADHD, Women versus Men. I think you'll find it fascinating, particularly if you or anybody in your family or anybody you know carries this gene.